Ladies and gentlemen, it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting of the County Commissioners to order. If we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we could remain standing for just a moment. I know we've all heard about the assassination attempt that took place. I'd like to keep the families of the one gentleman that was unfortunately killed and the other two that are in critical condition. Keep their families in them in your prayers. Thank you very much. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that we have a special guest with us tonight, former County Commissioner, Mr. Roy Crow, and his wife Judy. Welcome. Meeting announcement. This is a legislative day. Time is allotted at the end of each meeting for the commissioners to receive comments from the public. We have a public notice here I want to read. It says, public hearing notice, a new IPTV cable franchise agreement. Oh, wait a minute, I got all kind of stuff going on, blocking my.
You do.
Sandra,
Yes, sir.
Here.
you're gonna have to help me out.
Can you read this one? Can you go bigger?
Here we go. We can read it from that. Yes, sir.
A new IPTV cable franchise agreement between Kent County and Talkie Communications Incorporated, and a resolution by the County Commissioners of Kent County authorizing the execution of a cable franchise agreement between the county and Talkie Communications Incorporated. A public hearing will be held on July the 23rd, 2024 at 10 o'clock in the morning in the Commissioners' Hearing Room, R. Clayton Mitchell Jr., Kent County Government Center, 400 High Street, Chestertown, Maryland, to consider a new IPTV cable franchise agreement and a resolution to execute a cable franchise agreement. The agreement, resolution, and all related documents are on file at the Commissioner's office Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and on the county's website at www.kentcounty.com, or available by calling the office of the County Administrator at 410-778-4600 and press 4. And this is by order of the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, Sandra M. Blackston, Clerk, published in the Kent County News on 7/11/24. We have 7 consent items that we're going to deal with real quick. Is everybody okay with handling all 7 of them? First one is a regular session minutes dated July the 9th, 2024. We have our liquor minutes dated July the 9th, 2024. We have public hearing minutes dated July 9th, 2024. Closed session minutes dated July the 9th, 2024. Mr. Bill Mackey, Planning, Housing, and Zoning is here, has a FY 2025 Critical Area Grant Contract Agreement. Dan Matson is Director of Public Works. Maryland Environmental Service Regional 2 Regional Landfill Tipping Fees. And Dan Matson, Director of Public Works, Petroleum Fuels and Propane Delivery Contract Renewal. So if there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve all 7 consent items as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Then we have 3 Class C license applications. One is from Echo Hill Outdoor School, is applying for a beer and wine license on July the 20th, 24. Now these are alcohol applications, so they're in need of a public hearing. We'll call tonight the public hearing. So anyone that would want to speak out in favor or against this application, feel free to do so at this time. There being none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the special Class C per diem liquor license application for Echo Hill Outdoor School.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Then we have the Rock Hall Lions Club has applied for a beer, wine, and liquor license dated August the 10th, 2024. Same thing with that. Anyone that wants to speak for or against this application, please feel free to do so at this time. There being none, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the special Class C per diem liquor license application for the Rock Hall Lions Club.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Then we have singles on sailboats has applied for beer, wine, and liquor application for August the 17th, 2024. Same thing applies. Anyone that would like to speak for or against this application, feel free to do so at this time. There being none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the special Class C per diem liquor license application for singles on sailboats.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Then we have, next up is Miss Jamie Williams, is Director of Economic and Tourism Development. She's here for a certificate of appreciation for Chef Robbie Jester.
So first, we want to thank Judy Crow, who's an Economic and Tourism Development Commission member, for bringing it to our attention. So we definitely want to do a certificate of recognition for Robbie. I don't want to take too much of the thunder away from what you're going to read, but very appropriate today. I spent the day in Annapolis at the Maryland Department of Ag doing an ag education summit. And they talked about ag tourism and then how even our chefs that create dishes from the local economy and how all that plays together. So it was a really good session and just tied into everything you're gonna read from the recognition. So I'm gonna let you read that and we will take some photos.
Okay. We have as been stated, we have a certificate of appreciation for Chef Robbie Jester, and Commissioner Albert Nickerson will read the certificate of appreciation.
This is to certify that Robbie Jester is hereby recognized for always holding Kent County, Maryland close to his heart. The 12 years his parents owned and operated the Harbor House from 2002 to 2015 were formative as he grew up working and serving the community there. Despite relocating to New York, Delaware for his career, Robbie frequently returned to Kent County, organizing numerous farm-to-table dinners at Crow Farm and Vineyard. His commitment to supporting local providers and using seasonal ingredients shines through every dish he prepares. Robbie's Maryland roots and love for the Eastern Shore cuisine have been showcased on shows like Guy's Grocery Games, Beat Bobby Flay, Pressure Cooker, and Chopped. His motivation for appearing on TV stems from a desire to inspire people to step out of their comfort zones and explore new culinary experiences. Robbie extends his passion for teaching and leadership by mentoring high school culinary students, shaping the industry's future. He shares insights into his leadership style on various podcasts, hoping to motivate other industry leaders. When the owners of Deep Blue at the Kitty Night invited Robbie back as their culinary director, he eagerly accepted, embracing the chance to return to Kent County. For Robbie, being in Kent County, whether to work or leisure, brings a profound sense of peace. He has always been dedicated to giving back to his community, and now he sees at his moment to continue supporting Kent County, Maryland. And this is signed by the County Commissioners of Kent County, Maryland, Ronald H. Fithian, President, Albert H. Nickerson, Member, and John F. Price, Member. Thank you very much. back.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back.
Appreciate it. Very nice.
Good to see you. Yes, I have. Why don't you come in?
Right, I was gonna say, yes. There we go. There you go. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Thank you again.
Yep. Got me.
I didn't, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask if you had a few words you wanted to say, or did we cover everything?
Or samples?
I didn't even about 30 minutes ago, I didn't know where we were going, so. It takes a village to raise a child. And I have the best village imaginable. Both here and in Newark, and to come back here and feel that sense of home again, and feel like I just never even left, is a testament to the hospitality and the culture of this county. Thank you very much, and thank you all, you jerks, for doing this and surprising someone who was impossible to surprise. But, my team's in the building. I'm nothing without you guys.
Well, thank you
I'm
very
done.
much.
Thank you very much.
All right. County Attorney.
That's a tough
Yeah,
act to
I was
follow.
gonna say, that's the good stuff. That's the good stuff.
I bet you're not going to break the Kleenexes out for yours.
I don't think so, no. Not about pawn shops and zoning. So, Mr. President, Commissioners, you have two items before you today for legislative session. The first is CHR 5/2024. This is for first reading. This is an introduction, so you're not going to be voting on this. If you wish to go forward with this bill, you would introduce it, the clerk would schedule a public hearing, and then we would have a public hearing at a future meeting. This deals with pawn shops and secondhand dealers. We have regulations on them, and the legislation before you amends the existing statute, or the existing code provision, to specifically exclude transactions by a business that has a federal firearms license, because those transactions are regulated by federal law and by that license. So we want to take them out of this legislation. The second item that you have before you this evening is CHR 4/2024, and that is before you for third reading, so you would be voting on this. And this is the adoption of the Kent County zoning map. You previously adopted the land use ordinance, and the map then designates which properties are in which zone. At last week's meeting, you had requests by two landowners who wished to amend the map for their respective properties. Those requests were forwarded to the Planning Commission, and last Thursday at their meeting, the Planning Commission did consider those requests, and they did make a recommendation. And I believe Mr. Mackey is here to present on that, and he can get you up to speed on the recommendation of the Planning Commission. So you would have the option of adopting the map as originally presented, or adopting the map as amended to reflect one or both of the changes. Or you could reject the whole thing lock, stock, and barrel. Those would be your options.
Well, you want to do we need to discuss the first one that's with our Sheriff Hickman about the pawnbrokers and secondhand dealers? Does everybody understand it? I guess that's the reason for a public hearing, that we had learned something then.
Yeah, I don't think it would be necessary for the introduction for the sheriff to be here. It would be helpful, as you mentioned, at the hearing for him to be here. And again, what this does is it takes the code provision that we already have and it clarifies it to say that firearms that are bought and sold by an entity that holds a federal firearms license, like a licensed gun dealer, would be excluded from our code provision. So our code provision generally deals with pawn shops. That's what it was intended to deal with. So a gunsmith or a store that has a firearms license could deal in the sale of a previously owned firearm. So this bill would exclude those types of transactions from this because they're regulated through the federal firearms license. And there's the sheriff. So, Sheriff, well, first, let's have a motion to go into legislative session.
Okay, I'd do that.
I'll make
Yeah.
a motion to go into legislative session.
Second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We are in legislative session.
And Sheriff, this is the first reading of CHR 5/2024. The commissioners aren't going to be having the hearing tonight or be voting on it tonight. They're just deciding whether or not they want to go forward with it and start the process moving and have it scheduled for a public hearing. So there was a request for you to just give a little background on the need for this legislation and why it's proposed to be introduced.
So originally, the legislation was back in 2015, and it was mostly geared towards the pawnbrokers that were in the county, and to try to help have additional regulations on what can oftentimes be stolen property so we can be able to track it and be able to possibly recover it for victims. However, the reason why we're here today is due to a business that opened in Kent County that bought and sold guns exclusively. The business recently closed, but while said business was going through the permit process, it was the opinion that the Kent County Pawnbroker and Secondhand Dealer, Chapter 120, did not exclude this type of business from the reporting requirements in the county code. It was never the intention of the sheriff's office to place additional regulations on gun sales. As you may know, these transactions are already highly regulated through state and federal government regulations. I spoke with Shelley Heller and Tom Yeager, and they agreed the language within the code could be more clear. With that being said, the highlighted areas that are noted are the changes for review. We feel this language will in fact make it clear Kent County is not attempting to place additional regulations on the purchase and sales of guns that again already require record-keeping and transaction laws that meet requirements of the federal and state laws.
And Sheriff, it's fair to say that when we adopted this legislation originally in 2015, it was not the intent for us to regulate federal firearms transactions that are already regulated.
That's correct. Yeah.
So this just an opportunity to clarify
Correct,
the
yeah.
language a little better.
Right.
Yeah, and again, it's like it was since 2015, and it was, I guess, last year that they were going through the permit processes that it sort of was brought to my attention, and I, of course, reached out to Shelley to say, what do you think about this? And then she got Tom involved, and like I said, they agreed it could be more clear. So this is just clarifying or making it more clear within the code home rule that, we're not trying to put additional regulations on firearm sales. And we have never even interpreted it that way from a sheriff's office perspective because we're the enforcement authority on that. If that was the case, then we would have been knocking on the door of Molly's or, Fred Firearms or whoever it might be within the county. And that's something that's never been done because there's, as you can imagine, there's all kinds of regulations with that already. So we're not intending to try to put additional things on businesses here in the county.
This legislation, basically, it's consistent with the original intent of the law.
Correct.
So all we're looking for tonight is a motion to allow to have a public hearing to discuss it further.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to introduce Code Home Rule Bill 5-2024, and for the bill to be scheduled and advertised for a public hearing.
Got a motion, do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, gentlemen.
time, we have Katie Abbott, Economic Development Manager, Economic and Tourism Development. That's the first reading of that. Do you have that?
I don't
I didn't think
have
you
that
did,
on my agenda.
Uh,
This is, now I see it. Okay,
Okay.
it's the Clean Energy Loan Program.
There you go.
And again, this is a first reading, similar to the legislation you just had, to determine if we want to go forward. And this bill, and the Economic Development staff can give you a little more detail on it, but essentially, this is a state program, and the regulations of the program have changed since the time that we originally enacted this code provision. So we're essentially revising our code to make it consistent with what the program is today and what the state law is.
Very good. Okay.
What he said. So in September of 2016, Code Home Rule Bill 3, 2016 was adopted, adding Chapter 152, Taxation Article 7, Clean Energy Loan Program, and it took effect on October 20th, 2016. The PACE legislation was passed in 2021, PACE legislation was passed in 2021, and the program was updated to include new measures that PACE can cover, including resiliency, stormwater management, EV infrastructure, and some others. These measures will be helpful in Kent County as we're a coastal county. And we were asked to review and update our county ordinance by the Maryland Clean Energy Center.
And this gets us in line with the state regulations and protocols and requirements.
Correct.
Any questions, gentlemen?
Is this going to require a public hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because we have to amend our code because the existing language is in the code.
So this is this is in the exact same phase that the previous legislation
Yes.
that we just discussed is in. So we're looking for a motion to introduce the Code Home Rule and for the public hearing to be scheduled and
Correct.
advertised.
I'd like to make a motion to introduce amended legislation, CHR 6-2024, Maryland Clean Energy Loan Program, and to schedule a public hearing.
So, a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I missed that. On my screen, it was on the same line as CHR 5-2024. 4-2024 was on a separate line, but these two were on the
No,
same, and
no problem.
I didn't pick up on that. So now we are ready for CHR 4-2024.
Carl, are you filling in for Bill tonight?
And this is for third read, which means this is up for a vote tonight. You've already had your public hearing, and at the public hearing, you had two property owners that had some comments and some requests, and those were forwarded to the Planning Commission, and Mrs. Gerber is here to present staff recommendation and the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Yes, and so thankfully, due to the 4th of July holiday, the Planning Commission meeting was delayed, and they met last week, and we were able to get the two requests that had come in at the public hearing in front of the Planning Commission. And so I think, somewhere I have this letter. You know, I feel like this is actually kind of good. The interesting timing, you know, it's like we're coming to the end of a race. It's been a marathon. It feels, you know, fitting that the Olympics are about ready to start because this has been an Olympic effort. And so we had the two requests. One was from Mr. Trey Jones, who was requesting that all of his property be rezoned to agricultural zoning district. He has split zoning, employment center, and AZD. And then the second request was from Kevin Kimball, who was asking to introduce split zoning on his property to leave a buffer of AZD around the farm that has been proposed for community residential. The Planning Commission voted to forward a recommendation to support Mr. Jones's request and to recommend denial of Mr. Kimball's request. And the consistency in that was that split zoning can create issues when we're trying to do regulations, because if you don't know exactly where that line has been set, it can be hard to figure out where things can go, particularly on districts that have a lot of differences in what's allowed. And the feeling with Mr. Kimball's was that there are other mechanisms for him to create a buffer to protect the surrounding farmland without having to rezone it AZD. So you do have those recommendations. We presented, I think, a couple of sort of options if you decide that you wanted to move forward with adoption, for either accepting one or the other of the requests that came in late, or I think the third one is for both of them. So,
Right, it's not an all or nothing thing here, that you can adopt the map as originally presented. You can adopt it with the request made by each of the property owners, or you could adopt it with one property owner's request granted and the other denied.
With the planning commission's recommendation.
correct.
Right, they make a recommendation, but you're free to do,
I understand that, but that's why we have three options. We can do the planning commission's option, or we can do what we want, really, or let it go the way it was originally presented without either one.
that's correct.
Right, so yeah, there's a total of four.
Right.
Four options. The planning commission recommendation as originally presented, or picking and choosing the options that were discussed at the public hearing.
Do you have any questions,
I don't have any questions, no.
John?
No questions. I do have one question. So the finding of our planning commission, you guys, you and Bill have looked at it and you're in agreement with their findings?
Yes, you mean of the recommendation that they made last
The
week?
recommendation to the commission?
Yes.
And the one property owner obviously has other ways of accomplishing what he was suggesting.
Correct.
So it sounds, well, I'll leave it up to John, but it sounds like it's the second one. Is that the one we're,
I'm not even going to use that.
okay. I entertain a motion. We have no more questions. I'll
That would be
entertain a
option B.
I'm going to move to adopt Code Home Rule 4-2024 and replace the official zoning map for Kent County with the recommendation of the most recent Planning Commission's advice to the county commissioners.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
And now you would entertain a motion to go out of legislative session.
I'll make a motion to go out of the legislative session.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
Carla, have you discussed with, I'm sorry, I probably should, but since we've done this, have you discussed with Mr. Kimball's some of the other options? Just to let him know maybe what other options he does have?
I haven't had a conversation with Mr. Kimball, and not yet, no.
Okay,
We certainly will, though.
okay, yeah.
And I think it would be good to inform him, because most citizens don't know what, sometimes the commissioners don't know.
Right.
But to inform him what his other alternatives are.
Certainly,
To
yes.
accomplish what he
Exactly.
wants.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, we will certainly have that conversation with him. I think his idea is good, and I think that there are better ways to do it than having that split zone property.
I mean, because when he was in here, to be totally honest with you, I kind of really did respect what he was trying to get after.
Exactly, yes.
And
Actually, I thought it was a good idea, too.
I hope he can accomplish it, I really do.
But if it's going to cause
Right.
other issues down the road, we don't want to do that.
All right.
Thank you.
Bill, that's you check off another box, huh? All right. Our next appointment, Mr. Herb Kane, Director, and Jennifer Cox, Senior Care Program Case Manager for Upper Shore Aging Incorporated, and here for our annual Senior Care Program Plan. Welcome.
Welcome, Commissioners. We're here seeking your approval for state funding. Maryland Department of Aging, they fund a senior care plan, and Upper Shore Aging, as the local area agency on aging, we're tasked with receiving the funds and implementing the plan. Last year, the program served 74 seniors here in the county, and at the end of the year, they finished with 8 clients on the wait list because they, the limits of the funding. For fiscal year '25, the state is proposing giving an extra $40,000, which would raise it from $120,000 to $160,000. I'm brand new to this job, so I asked Jennifer Cox to come with me in case you wanted to hear a little more about the program, had any questions. But what the state requires is for some signatures, and I've read the program, I've signed it. The county health department has signed it, their approval, Department of Social Services, and the state also requires approval of county government officials. So that's why we're here.
Very good. And just for clarification, he's taken, Andy Hollis had your job prior to you, right?
Correct.
And Andy
Correct.
has moved on with DCT, I guess.
Correct,
Yeah.
Delmarva Community
DCES, yes,
Services.
exactly,
Yeah.
which is the parent company of DCT.
Very good. All right.
And it appears that your funding level is going to be increased by $40,000.
Correct.
That's correct.
So that's all a plus.
It is a plus.
And I must say, before we go any further, Kent County is very, very fortunate to have you in this position now. You have been just a very special person throughout the community, and a lot of people have a lot of respect for you, and I know that you're going to be successful and do a good job for our senior population.
Thank you. Thank
And
you so very
we're
much.
very blessed to have you here.
Thank you.
I agree. I got just one question with that additional funding. How far will that go in assisting the wait list?
Jennifer?
We'll be able to get to the wait list now
Okay.
and offer more services.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
All right.
Perfect.
Any other questions?
Good, sir.
Then I'll entertain a
I'd
motion.
like to make a motion to approve the annual senior care program plan as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Dan, you want to come up?
Absolutely.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good day.
I have one item on today's agenda, dealing with the construction of upgrades to the Nicholson Landfill Groundwater Treatment Facility project. I know you're all familiar with the project and where we are, but I'll give a brief overview. This project was bid out in the winter, and we received bids February 8th. Those bids were valid for a period of 90 days. However, we've worked with the contractor to extend the validity period for a total of 2 times. That period has been extended to July 31st on the condition that a notice of intent to award be issued by the county by July 17th, which is tomorrow. So after that point, we would no longer be able to honor, or they would no longer be willing to honor the bid that was submitted back in February. We recently met with the Maryland Department of the Environment. That was on July 10th after, as you're familiar, an extended duration attempting to arrange that meeting. During the meeting, MDE made general recommendations regarding potential alternatives to this project that may be a more cost-efficient way of accomplishing the goal. The goal in this case being reduction of iron levels reaching surface waters from the existing groundwater treatment facility. However, there was pretty high-level discussion at that meeting, and it was agreed that we would hold follow-up meetings with MDE between them and myself and my staff to dig in deeper on the technical details on what options may not have been considered prior. We do have a meeting scheduled with MDE for August 1st. Unfortunately, that is obviously after the end of the expiration of bids for this project. So at this time, I'm requesting formal action by the commissioners to either authorize Public Works to issue a notice of intent to award, intending to move forward with award of the project, or alternatively, to formally reject the bids that were received on February 8th, with the understanding that Public Works is to further coordinate with MDE on alternative projects to bring the plant within compliance. If bids were rejected, I would note that obviously the current noncompliance would continue while we coordinate with MDE, and that should ultimately we land after extensive discussion with MDE back on the project that is currently proposed. We have identified some areas that could be value engineered to reduce cost. However, in general terms, certain components and materials we expect to increase in cost over the next 6 months to a year, hence the reluctance of the bidder to extend their bid period any longer. So with that said, I'm requesting a motion from the commissioners to either reject the bids or authorize us to issue notice of intent to award.
Well, I'm going to say I was part of that meeting, and the most encouraging things that I've heard come out of that meeting was when the deputy director said that I assumed for the first time, they had seen this project before, just prior to our meeting. She said, we looked at your project before this meeting and found it to be extremely excessive in cost. And she said, we had no idea this, you were talking about $4.5 million. And there was only two ways that she either read that in the Kent News, or I do know that Delegate Jacobs made a call and used those same figures that I gave him about the cost of this project. And they give another example of where they had a $3.5 million project one time, and after taking a second look, we're able to get it down to 100,000. That's quite a jump.
Absolutely.
And it's quite a difference. And when you sit back and you look, and I in no way am encouraged and want to see the farmers have to go through something like this, but farmers that are pulling off the aquifer to irrigate their crops are doing exactly what we're doing, and the iron is just as bad there as it is everywhere else. It just seemed like a ridiculous thing to me, and that's why I've opposed it from day one. And I'm waiting for them to. I'm looking forward to them reevaluating this project, so and see where we come. But I just have to believe that they're going to make a big difference. They were talking about putting some type of aerators in these ponds and things. For just to explain it, they said in the beginning the water they were drawing out of there was 50 parts per million. It's by itself, or whatever we've done to it, has gotten
through the current treatment facility. Yes.
We have got it down to 14. They want it down to 3. Well, the idea that they're coming here to take a look at it, to me, is very encouraging. And I hope we deny this project, because I can't think for 1 minute that we're going to turn around and do the same thing again. So if you don't have any...
Just to note on something you said, plans were submitted to MDE during the design phase of this project. However, they were returned to the county, and MDE indicated that they did not have review jurisdiction over the project, which is...
They did not what?
Have review responsibility or jurisdiction over the project.
Other than they can tell us to do it?
They could, yes, they can enforce the requirement, but they did not review the design when it was submitted at that time. You mentioned this was the first time they had likely seen it. I wanted to provide that clarity, that the county did in fact
Well,
submit.
maybe this was the deputy director's first time.
Yeah.
Maybe she was leaving it up to people underneath her or something.
Yeah, and well, we did submit, and it was not reviewed at that time. So, yes, this may be the first time they have actually given it a detailed review, and we're excited and welcoming to any comments we have that can achieve the goal, obviously of giving the highest quality water back to the stream at what we hope is a reduced cost.
Because this is just the water that's going down a stream, and the only thing it's going to affect is the environment.
Yes.
If, it just, okay.
Yep.
Then I'll entertain a motion.
I just have a comment.
Okay.
I would like to commend our president of our board, along with staff, on actually being able to finally engage with MDE regarding this. We wanted, and I'm sure, and I don't want to speak for Albert, but I'm sure that he would like to have been at the meeting as well. But because if one of us was there with Ronnie, then that creates a problem. And they didn't want to do this in a public session. But I do know that Commissioner Fithian and staff have worked very, very hard on trying to resolve this. This is a $3 or $4 million project that doesn't sound like, it sounds like now that there's a way to maybe mediate a solution that will be satisfactory to everybody concerned. Obviously, we don't want to do anything to cause a problem for the environment. But when you're talking about $3 or $4 million versus maybe $100,000 or a couple $100,000 to mediate the situation, I think that we would be foolish to move forward at this point with the bids. That's my opinion.
I echo both of my colleagues' sentiments. I've been sitting here now for 2 years, and this project has given me heartburn since day one, to be totally honest with you. And I think I can speak for all of us and say it's given us all heartburn. And again, none of us want to hurt the environment at all, but we do believe that there's a better way or more economical way for the county, for the taxpayers. And the $3 or $4 million up front, that's just the beginning, because then we have to carry this thing for forever. So I for sure would like to pursue any and all other avenues that we can pursue to try to save the citizens and taxpayers some liability, some tax money.
And one other thing, if we're now being told that project was excessive, and that's what I heard. Were we ever fined? I heard that said one time, that we were fined.
We have been fined for non-compliance, yes.
Well, I'm not going to say anything about it yet, but I want to know what that number is. I want to know what we've paid out.
It was in the range of 17,000, and that was back in, I think that was in the 2020 timeframe. And that was reduced significantly after negotiating with them.
So we didn't pay 17.
No, we
No,
did.
we did.
We did
It
pay
was
a
much,
higher
much
number.
higher, and we negotiated it down to 14 or 17 with the promise that the county was working toward a solution.
Well, I'm not going to rock, I don't want to rock the boat right now because they're working with us in good faith to try to take a second look at this project to minimize the cost. But when it's all said and done, I don't think we should be fined for not doing a project that this deputy director openly admits was excessive. So I'm going to keep those numbers in the back of our head, and I'm going to let this project go. Obviously, work with them to see what they come up with. But that that's still not right to be fining someone for something that they think was excessive. So we'll deal with that at a later date, but I'm not gonna forget about it. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to reject the bids for the construction upgrades to the Nicholson Landfill Groundwater Treatment Facility contract and authorize Public Works to further evaluate project scope with the Maryland Department of Environment through a partnership.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Dan.
I was waiting for it.
Ditch and Rock Hall, has there been any contact with?
Yes,
Mrs.
we have
Brown?
been in contact with Mrs. Rennie. We expect to have her sign the release agreement this week, and we expect within the next 2 weeks to have the work done.
Because you called me about you having trouble getting a hold of her, and I do have her phone number but evidently you got it.
Yes, the county cell phone issued to our chief of roads had a Centerville number that she did not recognize, and she blocked it.
Oh, is that what it was? So you
That was sorted out, and they had a good laugh,
problem.
and
You had her right number, but she just didn't answer it because it was
Unfamiliar to her,
Wasn't
yes.
familiar, yeah. Because I run into her that very next night after you called me, and I got her phone number from her, and
yep.
but anyhow, good.
Thank you.
Jamie Williams, Director of Economic and Tourism Development, for letter of support FY 2025 Maryland Community Legacy Grant Application, Millington Community Resource Center.
So the town of Millington actually submitted the grant, so this letter of support is for the town of Millington's application. And it's already been submitted, but we do want to get the county commissioner's signature and support of the project so that we can send that into DHCD. Joe and I have been working on grants to rehabilitate the Millington Elementary School to make it the Millington Community Resource Center. The biggest issue there is the roof and fire suppression is going to have to be replaced. So we're working on trying to get that funding in place. So at this point, they're just grant applications. Any grant agreements will be, well, there's only one grant agreement that will come through the county, and that's the Rural Maryland Council. So if we do get the Rural Maryland Council grant, if that's approved, that will come before you for signature of the grant agreement. But this is for the DHCD Community Legacy Grant application.
And it's for about $100,000.
This one is for $500,000.
500?
Yeah,
Oh.
the $100,000 is the Rural Maryland Council grant. Yeah, we're trying to, kind of piece it together to get the project moving.
Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the letter of support for the town of Millington FY 2025 Maryland Community Legacy Grant application for the Millington Community Resource Center.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
Jamie.
Thank you.
Shelley?
Okay, I have one item for you this evening. And this is a different one. This has to do with a spongy moth egg mass survey report. We have
That's what that email was, I was asking about, yeah.
We've received the 2023 survey report. This has been going on since 1982 in conjunction with the U.S. Forest Service and Maryland Department of Ag and the individual county governments. This is a pest management program, and for the 2023 survey, a total of 734 acres were directly assessed in Kent County. None of the areas were found to have populations of spongy moth, averaging above 250 egg masses per acre, and there are no treatments currently proposed by MDA at this time. However, after communicating with the landowner, a significant area of spongy moth defoliation was found just east of Rock Hall. Therefore, the state has reached out to let to ask us if we are interested in participating in a very comprehensive 24-25 spongy moth survey. They would be recommending 100 to 200 surveys, and the cost would be in the range of $1,800 to $3,600.
So this cost is for a survey.
Correct.
And the surveys are $18
Per acre.
each.
Yep.
What are they doing
To remediate it, if they found, what they can do is if they find that we have an issue here in Kent County, they'll recommend aerial spraying.
at their expense?
It would probably be jointly borne, but they would have to come in front of us. There would be a public hearing. The landowners of the affected areas would have to be notified. They would likely want to be part of the public hearing. Nobody wants to start spraying chemicals without a lot of public notice and consent.
Well, I'm not a farmer. I don't think Ronnie has ever done any farming.
I don't know much about the spongy egg mold.
What's it even look like?
I have no idea. This was a first for me.
I remember when we had that outbreak of those gypsy moths.
Gypsy
were
moths,
around,
yeah.
and I tell you, my property was inundated with those things. The whole side of my garage, even, they were hanging all over. It was a mess. Now, I don't know what this is, but
It's not the lanternfly.
No,
It's something different.
but I know that I'm seeing on my property, the babies, which look
Yes.
different than the adults.
And they hop.
And they hop, so you need to know what, they almost look like a big black fly, but if you look closely, they have spots on them, and you're supposed to do the same thing as you do. So if you don't know what the babies look like, look it up, because if you see them, you're supposed to kill them.
you know, John, Commissioner Price is right. I'm not a farmer by no stretch of the imagination, but I do know one thing. If somebody's told us there's an outbreak of spongy moths, and we can find out for $2,000 or $3,000, I also know that if we don't do it, and them things come in here by the truckloads, we'll be sorry we didn't. And we'll have to answer to those people that are farmers, or lumberjacks, or whatever whatever these things
Whatever they
hurt. Yeah, whatever they eat, so
So trees that
it's
are
almost like a little
experiencing,
bit of an insurance policy to me, to
Right.
spend
I agree.
$2,000 or
Yeah, I would
$3,000
agree.
to find out what this is all about.
trees that are experiencing defoliation for 1 or more years may be weakened and susceptible to other diseases and mortality. So I think for such a small cost, I would recommend exploring it further.
I agree.
So they're asking for a total of $3,600.
I would recommend maybe not to exceed $3,600 from contingency.
I'll make a motion that we allocate not to exceed $3,600 from the county's contingency funds to monitor and survey the sponge moth.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Okay,
I know it's hard to believe, but we're at the end of the agenda.
how about that? I see where we did get a thank you letter from the Greater Rockwell Business Association for our contribution towards that bus that's running around.
Good looking bus.
It is.
And I'm sure it was well used the last 2 weeks.
Probably so. I'm gonna put it off till next week, but I do have a little bit of a personnel issue that's come to my attention just recently. I'll talk to you more about it, but, nobody's done nothing wrong. It's just that somebody's health is questionable. I want to talk a little bit about it. So if you can remember to put one on our next meeting, we'll wait till then and do it.
Okay.
So we don't have to. All right. That it?
That's it.
That's it?
I think
It's
we're
time
ready for John
the-
Massey.
For John Massey. You're on, John.
Tell us about the spongy moth.
I don't know anything about this one.
I should have looked it up.
I thought the crowd was in here for
For the spongy moth?
might have been, but evidently not.
No.
I tell you, I was glad to see the crowd. I'm glad to see Robbie home. It's great, good stuff,
Yeah, very good.
good stuff. And I'm glad he was surprised. That was,
How about that?
Yeah, that was a bonus. That was really nice.
And he's working for Kitty Nighthouse.
correct.
That's great, good.
It's almost 7 o'clock and it's still 92 degrees.
Nice, thanks.
Let's make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.